Now, Donald Trump is pushing for a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war. On the other hand, the NATO chief is asserting that they want to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs to prevent Putin from winning. But Kiev today faces immense pressure to negotiate terms that could permanently alter its territorial integrity and sovereignty. Our next report explores as to what is, of course, the end game for Ukraine.
Russia's relentless onslaught continues. Over 3 months, Moscow has launched more than 6,000 explosive drones and missiles onto Ukrainian soil. Thermobaric warheads and radar-evading missiles rain down, crippling power grids and devastating morale. One new Russian tactic is deploying fleets of cheap decoy drones to exhaust Ukraine's air defenses. The cost to civilian life and infrastructure is mounting. In eastern Ukraine, Russia has gained ground. Ukrainian forces face attrition not just on the battlefield, but within their own borders. Conscription has intensified as manpower shortages grew. Many reluctant citizens unwilling to fight are now forcibly drafted. All this while civilians endure freezing winters in darkness, their cities battered by incessant airstrikes. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has subtly shifted his tone. While he once firmly opposed ceding any Russian-occupied territory, now he makes a big admission that the Ukrainian military cannot win back the Donbass and Crimea from the Russians. The Russian president, during his annual press conference, exudes confidence.
I must say that the situation is changing dramatically. You know this well. I just want to confirm it. Movement is going on along the entire front line every day. And as I already said, we are not talking about advancing 100, 200 or 300 meters. Our fighters are taking and reclaiming territory in square kilometers. I want to emphasize, every day.
Responding to a reporter, Putin says Russia is ready to compromise with Trump on the Ukraine war.
Politics is the art of compromise, and we have always said that we are ready for both negotiations and compromises. It is just that the opposite side, in the literal and figurative sense of the word, refused to negotiate. And we are always ready for this. The result of these negotiations is always a compromise.
Zelensky hints he is willing to cede territory in exchange for NATO membership. The Western military bloc's new chief promises to provide all the support to Kyiv.
I think we would be very wise to put some lid on this and focus on the business at hand. And the business at hand is to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs to prevent Putin from winning and for Ukraine to prevail.
Yet Western powers like Berlin and Washington remain hesitant to move Ukraine closer to NATO. Adding to the urgency is Donald Trump's return to the White House. He's pushing for a quick ceasefire. This uncertainty complicates Ukraine's position, forcing it to weigh the risk of losing American support against the cost of continuing the war. For Ukraine, the stakes are existential. Negotiation could mean territorial loss, a bitter pill to swallow. But the ongoing war risks greater destruction and potential abandonment by weary allies. For Ukraine, the endgame is a high-wire act between survival and sovereignty, with no guarantees on either side. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what is happening in the Russia-Ukraine war, we are joined by Mr. Fred Weir, who is joining us live from Moscow. He's a journalist and also a political commentator. Mr. Weir, in the pretty long address that Vladimir Putin made earlier today, he said that politics is the art of compromise. He also said that Russia is gaining ground and is winning this war. Now, Donald Trump has said that he wants to strike a deal and bring this war to an end. The question is this. You know, when Putin says that he's willing to negotiate without any preconditions and is also willing to compromise, what sort of a compromised settlement do you think Vladimir Putin could agree on in a war that he says he's clearly winning?
Well, he did say that Russia is close to accomplishing its primary goals, which suggests he's in an optimistic frame of mind. And he always says he's ready for negotiations, but he made some stipulations, I think, that are pretty clear. The territory that Russia has claimed, these four regions plus Crimea, I think he intends to annex them. He has. I mean, officially, the Russian government has annexed these lands, and I think that is a minimal demand, that territory. It's a huge swath of territory. And also, he keeps referring to the Istanbul agreements, the abortive deal that was struck back at the very beginning of the war. He keeps calling that the template. And what are the elements of that? I think certainly demilitarization of Ukraine, significant demilitarization, no NATO membership, and this idea that the regime in Kiev should be denazified, which I have never understood exactly, but it's some sort of neutered regime, or friendly, accepting of Russian sphere of influence. There's some meaning to that which would require a political condition be imposed on Kiev.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned all of these many factors where Vladimir Putin insists that he wants to have his way. He wants to annex and keep the territory that Russia has captured so far in the war, and he also does not want Ukraine to go under the umbrella of the NATO military alliance. If the West agrees to this under Donald Trump, then this is effectively a surrender to the terms that Vladimir Putin has imposed. And for any negotiations to succeed, there's got to be a win-win situation for the two sides. Do you think the Americans would agree to a deal which is not a face saver for them?
I have no idea what Donald Trump has on his mind. He's being very cagey about it. He's surrounded himself with people with completely opposite opinions about what to do. So I think we just have to wait for Trump to come in. As for Putin, he said he hasn't talked to Trump for 4 years, and he doesn't seem to show any. He's willing to meet and talk with the man, but otherwise he didn't say he's waiting with any kind of enthusiasm for Trump to arrive. I think Putin has his own ideas about how the war will end, and I just sort of outlined what he hinted at. As for the Americans, I don't know. I think that at this point, the best thing, I mean, this is my opinion, the best thing that could emerge is most of Ukraine receiving independence.
Right.
Maybe something like Finland during the Cold War. A neutral status doesn't mean they can't have their democracy and develop and even keep their doors and windows open to the West. But some kind of end to the war, end to the fighting, a legal conclusion to it, and a chance for Ukraine, or what's, most of it, 80% of it, to build its own life.
All right. We'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Fred Weir, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Thank you very much.